Welcome back to The Path to Growth, where we talk with the leaders shaping the next chapter of technology growth, from bold business transformation to channel innovation at scale. I'm Matt Yorke, CEO of the Channel Company. Today we're talking about resilience, not just surviving, but scaling. In the age of always-on threats and cloud transformation, MSPs need a partner that understands not just infrastructure, but cyber risk, culture, and growth strategy. Joining me is someone who's built exactly that. John Pagliuca, CEO of N-able. John has guided the company from a spin-off to a public leader in secure IT services, and he's here to share how that journey is fueling the next wave of MSP growth. John, welcome to the show.
Hey, Matt. Great to be here.
I appreciate it on a hot Friday in Massachusetts. So let's talk about the spin-off to scaling the business. N-able's had a very impressive path to becoming a standalone public company. What were some of the key inflection points, and how have they shaped your growth philosophy as the CEO?
Yeah, sure. So, N-able has had a pretty cool journey. Hopefully most of the folks that are tuning in have been with us for decades, Matt, which is pretty cool. And a lot of them, if they've been with us for decades, came up through different brands and different names. We were N-able 1.0 that was based in Ottawa back in the day. And then we were also part of this GFI business. And so one of the key inflection points really was when SolarWinds at the time first acquired N-able in 2013. They acquired Logic Now, the business that I was part of, in 2016. And they put us together and we formed SolarWinds MSP in 2016. And then in 2021, we took that company public as N-able 2.0 is like what we refer to it internally, and we switched to the purple and black, so to speak, Matt. Then, so I'd say that was the big bit. And we like to think of ourselves as an innovative startup. We're actually a collection of a bunch of different acquisitions. We acquired Lumen at the end of last year, and Matt, as leaders, we always try to build a culture that's from the bottoms up, and a we culture. And what I refer to our culture at N-able is a quilt that we pull fabric from different organizations. So we had like this Ottawa N-able quilt. Our data protection, our Cove offering, has a good amount of folks from the EASO business. So all these different startups that have formed that quilt that really shaped the business today.
Interesting. So what's your approach then in trying to create that culture as you acquire new companies? Because obviously, every company has a culture, and sometimes there's a sense that we've been acquired. Do we, what does that mean for us as that?
Yeah, great question. Look, I believe that you and I have broken bread a couple of times. I think we share a similar view on leadership overall, and I believe culture is a we thing, not a me thing. And one of the things that we like to do, and what we did with that Lumen and what we did with our backup business, is it was a partnership at first where we were, selling or white labeling an offering. And what that allows the team to do, Matt, is to spend some time getting to know each other. We, as an example, we sold the Lumen product shoulder to shoulder, so to speak, in the channel for a year. And that went so well. We got to know the teams. They got to know us, our styles. And we made the acquisition and made that last bit more of a familiar bit, because the teams have been working together for so long. But yeah, I do believe one of the things companies miss when they do acquisition, and I know in the channel there's a lot of acquisition going on right now. It might look good on a spreadsheet, but you need to make sure that it looks good, or that it feels right from a team point of view, because our teams, the members of our groups, they're the most important assets that we have in technology. And if those teams can't work together or blend together, we can't do it. We were just at Black Hat last week, and guess what? We had the legacy N-able team and that Lumen team again selling side by side in that one booth. So I think making sure that you get the culture right, you build that we culture, you welcome folks and drive a lot of accountability is a key part of it.
Yeah, I think it's I love what you said there about the spreadsheet. I think culture needs to be a big part of due diligence, right? Like, you've actually got to put that into the that due diligence process and understand, because as you say, it could look fantastic, financially, in that spreadsheet. But if the groups can't come together and act as one company, it's not going to work.
We're spot on.
All right, so you've gone public. How, if at all, has that changed the relationship with the partners?
Sure. So look, first time public company CEO here, Matt, right? And one of the things I learned early on,
straight into the deep end.
Straight in, right? Straight in. And one of the things I learned early on is you need to keep all of your stakeholders with the same message and vision. And so if you think about the stakeholders, of course, my stakeholders are the MSP community and the VARs and the channel and their end customers. Those are an important couple of stakeholders. Also, the vendors that we partner with, we believe in an open ecoverse, making sure those stakeholders, my employees are a really important stakeholder. My board, of course, to give us guidance, are an important stakeholder, and Wall Street, right? So they're all stakeholders. And Matt, the best thing is making sure that message is the same. And so what I literally sent to my team a company-wide email last night on our long-range plan, and the headline of that story and the pillars there were the same story that I told Wall Street. So I think it's critical for a leader to make sure that regardless of which stakeholder you're talking to in this 360 world, that we need to make sure members of the media, partners like you, the same message that I'm telling you is the same message that I need to tell Wall Street. And I think that's an important one. I think the challenge being public on some companies is at times public companies forget about the long range arc and driving value to the customer and get caught on the 90-day hamster wheel that is a public company quarter. And so that's the risk. I've had the good fortune to be part of a couple of public companies. And so I learned from some of the previous experiences, like, let's not get on that 90-day hamster wheel. Let's make sure that we're telling a long range story. That's what my customers want to hear. Our partners want to hear. And ultimately, that's what Wall Street wants to hear too. So aligning on that vision and balancing that long range vision as you're, of course, by law kind of mandated to tell the world how you do every 90 days.
Yeah. So how do you kind of create that balance, right? Where you're trying to build a long range vision, you're trying to take the employee base, you're trying to take all stakeholders with you, and I love the fact you reference kind of customers, and the channel was as important as the financial stakeholders. With that need, I got to hit this every 90 days. I got to hit a set of metrics that we said 90 days ago.
Yeah, sure. I often reference the Jack Welch quote. This is the former CEO of GE. Yeah. Similar to you and I, he lived most of his life in Massachusetts. I know we have different accents, but we don't live that far apart.
That's true.
And so Jack Welch would always say, as a leader, as a leadership team, you're managing the short term while you're building the long term. And that's what we do at Enable. We have our quarterly metrics, but we set aside that a couple of months from May through August. And it just actually culminated last week, where we talk about the long range and what do we want to look like when we're in 2028? What are the MSPs in channel? What will they need in 2028? And so it's this balancing act. It is a balancing act, because even if you're building for tomorrow, you need to have those pillars or those proof points, those signposts as you go on through today. In today's day and age, with technology changing as fast as it is, you need to make sure those signposts are giving you that hey, what I'm putting in the market is the right thing. The feedback I'm getting from customers is the right thing. So it's just being mindful and setting up parts of your year, parts of your quarter, parts of your day where you're balancing the different horizons.
Yeah. Very good. All right, let's switch gears. So you mentioned the Adlumin acquisition. So you've been leaning heavily right into cybersecurity. Talk to us a little bit. Why is cyber resilience so central to your go-to-market right now?
Sure. Look, and to your managed service providers that might be listening in, or your VARs, or even your CIOs and your internal IT departments. It's not about a software stack. It's not about a vertical, or hey, it's my email security or my endpoint security. It's really about the outcome, and the outcome, whether you're an MSP and your customer is external, or you're a CIO and your stakeholder, your customer is internal, it's the same outcome, Matt. Everyone wants business resiliency. you really only get business resiliency through cyber resiliency. And that's what it is. And so for us, our strategy has been, which is different than a lot of the folks in our space, we want to provide 3 best-in-class offerings that stand alone on their own, which is really important to help with that cyber resiliency. Because at the end of the day, cyber resiliency is core to everybody's growth algorithm. If you're an MSP and your customer has an incident, even if it's not your fault, the likelihood of you losing that customer is high. So the retention part. Cybersecurity is one of the faster growing areas, services. So it's a big part of the expansion part. So we want to retain, we want to expand. And for MSPs and VARs out there now, they're using that to differentiate, to bring on the new customers in, companies that are leveraging AI and all the bits. So cyber resiliency, and more importantly, business resiliency, is absolutely at the centerpiece, the bullseye of anyone's growth algorithm. And so we frankly have listened to our customers, and we've shifted a lot more of our resources, our investments into more of the cyber resiliency. We're lucky. We have Cove, which is data protection, which allows people to recover. We have Adlumin, which helps them detect and protect. And then we have our N-Central and Insight offerings where they can manage and monitor. So we believe we're the only shop on the planet that has the complete cyber resilience story, especially geared for the MSPs in the mid-market.
Right. Excellent. So how are the MSPs responding to, I guess, really what is a paradigm shift, right, from protection to resilience?
Yeah. So look, I was on stage yesterday at an event. I know we were at an event with you guys recently as well, and people are nodding their heads. They understand that we need to be outcome driven. One of the other parts that I've been talking to folks about, it's not about the SLA, the MSP. Stop talking to your customer about uptime. Start talking to them about the experience. Start understanding where their business is going, because that's how you're going to resonate with your customer. At the end of the day, again, whether you're an internal CIO or an MSP, you want to become the trusted advisors to that business. And that has to start and stop with cyber resilience. And so it's resonating. The world's getting more complicated. We know that the bad guys are out there focusing on the mid-market, focusing on the MSPs themselves, focusing on the small, medium enterprise. We know the bad guys are leveraging AI. And so we need to put them with the same, you need to fight fire with fire, Matt. And so it's resonating. The education's resonating. And I believe the MSPs understand you can't have one silver bullet, or I call it one purple pill. If it was, we'd be selling it. That could make you resilient. It's a layered security approach. And I think the story is resonating, and it starts and stops making sure that we're giving them a best in class experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as you say, the bad guys are getting unbelievably sophisticated. I don't know if you've been reading this, but there are now these LinkedIn profiles that are literally basically North Korean cyber hackers, right? And they're going off and doing actual work with a view that somewhere they're just somehow getting into your system that they may or may not use to breach downstream. And the only way that you have any sense of it is that they're whitewashing their faces on video interviews and stuff. It's unbelievable.
And what they're doing on the deep fakes and really to social engineer to get in, it's really amazing. By the way, most of the time hackers don't hack their way in. They simply log the way in. The way they're logging their way in is they're manipulating the user and trying to find a way to get that user's credentials. And so it is scary. And I think it's our responsibility at Enable and across the broader landscape to help mid-market companies, small, medium businesses, and MSPs be educated, evangelize, and give them this kind of layered security approach. I think by and large, Matt, people understand that you can't prevent someone from getting in. That's why the detection and the response and the recovery is so important. Because inevitably the bad guy will get into your environment, and it doesn't matter who you are or what government you might even be in, they can get in. So now it's how quickly can I detect? Can I effectively contain and then respond, and then make sure we get the recovery out? And so that's why it's honestly, Matt, it's really more about business resiliency, cyber resiliency than about some of the buzzwords that people might have been using in the past.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's shift. So you and I, we've spoken a number of times about culture, and we even on this podcast we have, but also the culture of performance, right? Enable as a company, you've received multiple best places to work, best career growth awards. How do you, as a CEO, balancing, right, again that 90-day kind of external stakeholder, how do you create and find the time to create that culture that supports, innovation on the one hand, but also accountability, right? And performance is all about, personal accountability and corporate accountability.
Yeah, look, it starts and stops with empowerment, right? I read an interesting McKinsey report when they were talking about AI and the AI transformation at some of the companies. And I'm paraphrasing a bit, but basically they said the number one barrier for companies to go through this transformation is not the employees. The employees are ready. It's the leadership that's holding them back. And so for me, whether it be AI, whether it be security, whether it be growth, or hey, a new initiative, I actually just got pinged in my teams from one of my my customer success leaders that took this new initiative to market. Now he's going and he's talking to our MSPs on the front lines and did that himself. So creating an environment where people feel empowered, that they are accountable. You said the right word. At the end of the day, we all want to make a difference. And if you're part of a company where you're just coming in and it feels more like a job and I'm doing what somebody told me to do, you're not going to get the best out of folks, right? If you want the best in folks in this day and age, you need to make sure that they can feel empowered. And it sounds easy, but as you're growing and as you're scaling, it's trusting the team, putting the right goals, aligning on the big vision, and then giving the empowerment and making sure folks can run. Providing that safety net. Mistakes are okay. I get frustrated with organizations. You want your teams to feel comfortable stretching and running fast, Matt, that you might make a mistake. But giving them that empowerment for me is paramount for any organization's success.
Yeah, no, I always say, look, mistakes are fine. Let's just not make the same mistake over and over, right? So, if you're not making mistakes, we're probably not pushing hard enough or fast enough or thinking differently. But let's make sure that we make a mistake once and we learn from it. And oftentimes, you actually learn more from failure than you do success.
Yeah,
right? I mean
that's that famous Nelson Mandela quote, right? We either win or we learn.
Yeah.
And we've all had those days where we're like, well, I wish we weren't learning so much. But but we need to keep that mindset as leaders, and we need to create an environment where our teams feel comfortable that they can push. And that's true even for some of the MSPs that might be out there that have 5-person shops. Like, encourage your teams to leverage the new tools, create that environment, and you'll be surprised what you get out of that.
So obviously your customer base is, I think it's 25,000 strong and growing. And it could be anything from a mum and pop shop up into a very sophisticated large MSP. So how do you connect kind of employee growth to that partner success, and create that connection?
Yeah, a lot of it's that I used to work for a CEO back in the day that said repetition never spoils the prayer, and we like to do that a lot. In a lot of my messaging, I like to remind. So we're 1,900 employees worldwide. We're servicing 600,000 small, medium businesses. There's 9 to 10 million people that are depending on us to make sure that their businesses are resilient. And I like to remind the folks, in particular, when you're dealing with an internal IT department or an MSP, they're kind of monkey in the middle, right? Their business, something might happen, whether it be a breach or an outage. And now the MSP or that internal IT department, he or she's under the gun. They're under pressure. And we need to come and make sure that we're empathetic to the customer, understand the pressure that they're in, but make sure that we have the responsibility. It's a privilege and a responsibility. And I keep repeating that prayer almost on a weekly basis to the team so they understand what the mission is. And so, as leaders, as we go through, do your employees understand the mission? And the mission needs to be beyond dollars and cents. It needs to be something where people say, hey, look, I'm protecting the regional bank. I'm my doctor's office, my dentist. I have a cousin who's a chiropractor. That's the type of business and at the end of the day, the small, medium enterprise employs more than half of the world's global economy. People forget about that. And so we're not necessarily out there, providing, security for the largest banks, the Fortune 100 out there, but it's Main Street as opposed to Wall Street. And I believe at Enable, I can see my employees, their shoulders go back. There's a sense of pride and privilege and responsibility that they're there to protect the mid-market and the small, medium enterprise.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, I didn't realize you're 600,000 businesses sitting behind the MSPs and 9 to 10 million kind of employees sitting inside of that. I mean, that's a huge number. And it shows you the scale. I've been reading a lot recently, just kind of, let's just pull on that a little bit around how AI is going to empower even more small businesses, because you're not going to need, you're not going to be constrained by capital, right? You're actually literally going to be able to have AI sales, AI marketing, AI finance function, and you can run a small business that looks like it's a ginormous business.
Yeah, I mean, so they referred to the cloud back in the day as like one of the ultimate world flatteners, right? We had the world getting much more robust in their cloud
Yeah.
technologies. Well, man, AI is, even if that was a world flattener, this is AI is completely really a world flattener, because you and I grew up in the last software world in the last 20 years, SaaS. Those were kind of more geared
Yeah.
enterprise, maybe small enterprise. But the power of AI right now, it's right down to the individual. An individual can go spin up and leverage the large language models that are out there. And so really it's going to eliminate barriers to entry for a lot of folks. So small, medium enterprise, I expect to gain a lot in productivity. But Matt, you know what? It starts with the curiosity, and the understanding of technology. And this is where I think MSPs can really help. People ask me, oh, is AI going to be the end of managed service? No. But what I tell people, as long as there's a delta, a gap between bleeding edge for the good guys or for the bad guys, and what maybe like your cousin or brother-in-law who's a lawyer, or the doctor's office, there's always going to be a gap between what's out there for the good guys and the bad guys, and what people that aren't focused on IT. And managed service providers can provide that gap
Yeah.
and help those folks. So you're a doctor's office, or you're that small chiropractor, the MSP can now wrap an AI service, help them with their AI service. So maybe they don't need as many administrative folks, or maybe their team can spend, it's Matt, it's less about the reduction in the workforce. It's more about the efficacy of the workforce and the production of the workforce. And I think AI, it's the next wave. We're just getting started, and I think we'll see productivity gains across. We're seeing it already. We're using it. And I think my guidance to the MSPs is look at it in three different dimensions. Look at your own internal business. How many L1 technicians? What are your L1 technicians doing now? How can you elevate them, make them more effective? Number two, select vendors that are leveraging AI. That's, hopefully they're talking to companies like Enable, because we have AI powered tools across our portfolio. And then number three, talk to your customers, survey your customers, educate your customers, make sure that they're protected. Matt, one of the things people don't understand is people might be pushing data into a spot where they don't really know where their data is going. So make sure that they're protecting it in the right way, and then maybe you can wrap a service around it. So I think it's going to be a fantastic third horizon for the MSP market.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we do a ton of research, obviously, as you would expect. We're definitely at that kind of tipping point, or crossing the chasm point, where MSPs are now reporting tremendous interest from their customers, actual moving into proof of concept, not just the hype cycle. MSPs, like you say, in that L1 technician environment, are definitely leveraging the tools there so that they can offer higher value services to their customers. And the beauty of AI is, I mean, obviously the hype cycle's off the charts, but I can't ship you a box of AI that you're going to plug in and say, I've done it. Right? There's so much that goes into it, not least, as you mentioned, you need a data architecture, and then you need to have your data in a safe, protected environment, right? Those things are challenging for companies. So that's going to help MSPs. That's really high value work. And then you're just going to start attacking opportunities or problem areas in your business using specific agents, right? That you're going to.
That's exactly right. I tell folks the verbs have been staying the same for 20 years, and they're going to stay the same for the next 20 years as well. You're managing, you're securing, you're protecting, you're recovering. Those are the verbs. The nouns keep stacking up, right? So it was workstations and servers, then it was SaaS applications. Now you have these AI agents. The old nouns don't go away, Matt. The new nouns are coming in. AI is kind of sitting on top. They're saying, is it going to eat software? I don't think it's going to eat software. It will augment software. And what you'll have left for the MSPs and the IT directors is more nouns that they have to go apply the same verbs: identify, protect, recover, and go from there, right?
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm going to use that if you don't mind.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked around this. So let's dig a little bit deeper. Enable's known, right, for being absolutely laser focused on MSPs. And we see that with your presence at our various MSP focused events. A tremendous supporter. What does it? What does being partner first actually mean inside your organization?
Yeah.
So,
So
if
look,
you take it down to the people.
so no, first of all, it's evolving, and uh, we're evolving even what partner first means, and we're evolving actually to even now to VARs as well. And so what we found is we're really the term MSP. This is blasphemy for me saying this. It's kind of a silly phrase, right? Managed service provider. Really, what it is it's the trusted solution provider or the technology solution provider that you're having. Those show up as managed service providers, MSPs that provide the service, but also in these VARs. And so we're evolving our definition to make sure that we're helping service some of these VARs as well, not number one. So the broader swath of the channel, frankly. But really, it's really about that XLA, and this has been, I'm on my soapbox for the last couple of months internally, where it's more about it's not just about uptime. We have to understand what the customer's goal is, what the MSP's goal is. I'm blessed to talk to, honestly, hundreds, if not actually thousands of MSPs every year. And the reality is they're kind of like fingerprints, Matt. Not two MSPs are really alike. And they all have their own bespoke journey and goal. And what we try to do is provide an understanding and the right solution. We have some variety in the solutions, but then we put the right type of people around them. We organize internally by segment, because we know a $2 million MSP has a different need than a $20 million MSP, than a $200 million MSP. And guess what, Matt? There's now $2 billion MSPs, and they have different needs. So to put the same type of resources around them doesn't make any sense. So it's having a little bit more bespoke type of approach on the partnership. And the other thing is people don't want to be sold to. We lean a lot on bringing MSPs together as peers and let the magic help happen within them. It's a cool community that you and I are a part of, Matt, where an MSP in the UK and an MSP in South Africa and an MSP in San Francisco have a lot of the similar challenges. If they're similar size, put them in the same room. Let them go off and better service themselves. And so our partner first approach is very much that. And we're blessed in that our business model is super simple. We grow as our customers grow. So we're very much aligned to make our customers more efficient, to drive their profitability, to help them scale. That's how Enable grows. And so we spend a lot of time, just as much time on the software as we do on the people programs and the people aspects, and making sure we're helping them create their own bespoke journey and their own goal.
Yeah, no, and I love that, and I also see that when we're at events together. So let's just talk about that. You're recognized frequently by CRN, one of our brands, and in fact, this week, as I said to you, you actually voted by the MSPs who are at the event. You won our exchange best in show. So so congratulations. Now, outside of that, but what are partners telling you is working? What are the partners telling you?
Yeah, and by the way, what the awards that mean the most, it's when it comes from the community, when the MSPs are saying that, and it means the most. So thanks to them for voting us in. Look, I'd say by and large, I think they're saying, hey, we understand you guys are getting it right. I don't believe, Matt, in a closed platform, closed architecture. So number one, we promote an open ecoverse. So what does that mean? That means I integrate with my competition. Unlike some of the other folks that have gone more of this kind of closed bit, and I preach open ecoverse. We say, hey, look, it would be great if you wanted to use all of the Enable solutions, but we know that might not be perfect for every one of your customers. And so we understand the nature of hybrid. We put our money where our mouth is. We don't charge for this stuff. We invest in it. And why? It's because the MSPs, as they're getting bigger and they're scaling and they're doing more M&A, they need a partner who's as pliable as their business model is. And so that part I think we're getting right. I think the way that we're going to market and giving them some pliability and flexibility on pricing in exchange, giving them optionality, which again, some of our competitors are saying they eat this bundle even if you don't want to eat. I don't believe in force feeding anyone anything. So I think that's resonating. Look, and we've got some work to do. I'm pushing my team to elevate the experience. We're getting there. Our tech support teams are almost annually receiving Stevie Awards. Our CSAT scores are in the high 90%. So we're doing a lot of things right, but don't let my team hear that. I want them to focus on continuous improvement, because the world is evolving fast. The MSPs need to keep up pace, and we know that they're challenged every day. And so we wake up every day with that responsibility and that privilege on our shoulders. So overall, I think things are trending in the right direction, but we want to be that vendor that's known as continuous improvement. And look, if we get it wrong, we also want to be the vendor that says, yeah, hey, we got it wrong, now let's make it. And I think that equally is important as well.
That candor, right? Because none of us get everything right. So let's pull on that a little bit. So let's talk about kind of what you see as what's coming next. What do you think are the most exciting opportunities and I guess, challenges or risks for MSPs in 26 and beyond, as we're now deep into 2025, and my mind is already partly into 26 planning.
Yeah, same. We're kicking off our planning as well. So look, two things come to mind. And by the way, I love the way you framed it, because I do believe in that construct that an opportunity is a risk and a risk is an opportunity. It depends on, I always say headwinds and tailwinds. It depends depending on which direction you're facing. If you're facing this one, it's a headwind. Well, if you turn around, it's a tailwind. And so it's a similar construct, right? So number one, compliance. I think here in North America, we're seeing a big push on CMMC, but then there's other compliance regulations across the globe on a broader bit, but then even certain verticals have different compliance issues. And for the MSPs that are in a little bit more of a wait and see mode, or they're not getting educated, they could be on the outside looking in, and compliance could be a risk for a lot of MSPs. Here in North America with CMMC, if you are an MSP that has a subset of your customer base that is going to require a CMMC compliance, and you don't know what that means to you, or you don't know what that vendor stack means to you, you're putting yourself at risk. So leaning in and educating. My big advice to MSPs is some of these things are expensive. And this could be six figures, $100,000, $170,000, $250,000 worth of work for able to do that. You have another path. You may also want to augment and think about how you can partner with another MSP, partner with a vendor like Enable to help them with their compliance needs. So I'd say compliance is number one. The second one, and not to beat a dead horse, but AI, I believe to be both a risk and opportunity. And Matt, there's something interesting happening with some of the MSPs consolidating, with more and more smart money coming into the space, with the ushering in of AI and a lot of these security needs, that there's going to be the separation of the haves and have-nots in the channel. And my plea to the MSP community is lean in, invest, and understand your cybersecurity hygiene, and also what you need to do in AI. Be part of the haves. And being part of the haves might be augmenting. I think one of the mistakes companies make is, I'm going to go build my own SOC, and they're millions of dollars into it. And what they probably should have done is augmented and leverage a player like Enable, or somebody else to get their XDR of threat hunting. And so knowing who you are, and making sure that you're part of the haves and the have-nots, in both the compliance and the cybersecurity part was kind of go hand in glove. And then with the AI revolution, that's really coming in the here and now.
No, I think I like the way you framed that. I think from an AI point of view, compliance is exacerbated, right? Because you can go off and do stuff with customer data, PII, and not realize you put it in a non-secure environment, and it's somewhere out there. And then on the innovation side, you've got to be in these tools on a daily basis, just learning and absorbing and refining, because if you wait for perfect, you will get left behind.
That's a great way to say it. Plus one on that. And we're still figuring out some of these bits, right? The goal, everyone understands the mission. We want to make sure the ecosystem is more secure, but there's several paths to get there. I think that as a community, we need to figure that out.
So let's look at Enable for a moment. What do you see as the biggest, white space opportunities for growth for Enable?
So we have 11,000 MSPs that use Cove today. Cove is in the champions quadrant from Canalys and everybody that anyone that can spell backup and recovery knows that Cove is a champion and a leader. And then in our RMM business or our UEM business, we actually have vulnerability management for free. And we have millions of MSPs using the vulnerability management tool to, again, make them more secure. So we've got a couple of really leapfrog type of technological advancements that we're really redefining the rules for the MSPs to make them more secure, make them more efficient. So we're pretty stoked with the second half.
And that's coming later this year, second half?
Vulnerability management's actually in the offerings right now.
Right.
And so people can use it. We're updating our patching capabilities to add Linux and Apple to patching. So people right now, they might use different tools. They're using Jamf or they maybe, and so we're going to give them the one tool that they can do all their vulnerability management
Fantastic.
and their patching all in one bit. It's all about saving, the user's time, and people get tech stack fatigue, right? MSP has 22 different pieces of software in their stack, and it's exhausting. And their teams are in the swivel mode where they're going back and forth between these two different offerings. We're not saying you need to enable these to be everything for all of you, but we're here to try to help, separate the signal from the noise for these folks.
Yeah, great. So I mean, you got a lot going on, and it sounds like you've prepped the engine for further growth as you move into the second half through 26. So it's exciting. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Obviously, this podcast is the path to growth. Let's talk about your personal path to growth. What are some of the growth levers you think that more CEOs should be pulling, but aren't necessarily, or what have you seen work?
Yeah. So on the personal front, so I've got 4 kids, and I know you and I share
a lot of soccer. Yeah,
a lot of soccer, as we know, or like we like to properly call it football, Matt, right? So I'm that dad that likes to send them like these cool memes or messages every so often. And one came across that I thought all CEOs should embrace, and really what it was this concept of philosophia versus philonokia, right? I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but philosophia is the love of knowledge and kind of the truth and understanding. With philonokia, like Nike, we all know Nike is more of this like love of victory or winning. And as a leader of a business and a CEO, whether it be your 2-person shop or 2,000 person shop or 200,000 person shop, your focus needs to be on the philosophia and making sure that you and your team are trying to uncover the truth for your customer and not just trying to win. The win has a short-term kind of view. And so the more that as a leader, you can have an approach and a conversation on more of the philosophia versus the philonokia, you'll have a better organization, because you want your organization to challenge you. You want to have the right answer, not your answer win. You want the right answer to win. And the leaders that anchor around, I want to be right, or it's my idea, they have short legs, Matt. It's the folks that have more of an anchoring on the philosophia versus the philonokia, I find, have the best and most rewarding careers.
That's fascinating. I'm gonna definitely use that one as well.
Cool.
So as we wrap up, I like to always kind of do kind of key things I've heard, right? So culture, within that empowerment, right? Empowering your staff, and also a culture of continuous improvement. Managing the short term versus building the long term, right? So having both of those things going on, right? In that balance, it's not one or the other. It's about the outcome. i.e., business resilience is cyber resilience, right? So it's not just the short term. I loved verbs will stay the same, but there's just going to be more new nouns. I think that's a great way to look at that. Obviously, a culture of customer empathy, and that's how you try and go market every day. I mean, that came through loud and clear. And then lastly, what we just touched on there, I really like that. It's the right answer. The right answer should win, right? Not my preferred answer or someone else's preferred answer.
That's right.
So John, look, I just want to thank you. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I wish you a good remainder of the dog days of summer, and I hope to see you soon.
Likewise. And look, we appreciate the partnership with you and your whole group. They've been first class to work with.
Thank you. That's it for this episode of The Path to Growth. I'm Matt Yorke. Thanks for listening.